Hi everyone, it's Molly Janelle. Welcome back to my channel. Sorry it has been so long. I had all these high expectations to be able to film so much this summer, and then I took on another job and I've been working full time and trying to have a bit of a social life. I have had no time, or I guess I haven't prioritized time, so I'm really sorry about that. But here I am with another video. I know it's a bit late, but I'm going to be doing my 6-month update since losing my mom. And yeah, it's been a journey. I was with all of my family this last weekend, and I was like, how is it literally August? Like, it's so close to being a year. Like August, September, October, November, December, 4 months away. How did that even happen? It kind of just blows my mind. Like, I know my mom would always say, when you get older, the years go faster. Well, this year was literally like a blur. I don't remember much of it. Understandably, I mean, I went through a lot, but yeah, so that's kind of crazy. But I hit my 6 months without my mom June 30th. It's definitely been different. I've been hit with different waves of things, and it's hard to explain the farther along you get because it's still just as hard. It just becomes more manageable. I still think I'm a little too good at just pushing it aside and focusing on what needs to get done. So the fact that I've been so busy this summer, I think I haven't really allowed myself to grieve a ton. But we're figuring it out, you know, like I'm not a pro at this and just taking it as it goes. So yeah. I'll start with some of the things that I started to notice farther along in my grief journey. It's like my brain kind of like understood what was going on. And so like it was able to process things a bit more. One thing that I noticed was like more physical triggers that would remind me of her and make me really upset. A lot of them were like actually physical triggers that remind me of my mom. So when she was really, really sick, she looked pretty rough. And so I remember one time I was at work at my bakery, and this sweet old lady came in, but she was walking with a cane the exact same way that my mom would walk. Because my mom kind of had to like step up like this with her hip because one leg was longer than the other and it was all in her hip, and lots of reasons to that. But so she would step up and walk, and there was this sweet old lady that walked in, and I literally had to turn around and leave. Thankfully I wasn't working in the front of house, so it was fine. But I just happened to look out and see her, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I remember another day at the bakery, I was remembering a moment when my mom told me that she came into work, into my bakery to come visit me, but she had to turn around because she had almost passed out. And I didn't even know until I got home. And so I was thinking about that at work, and then somebody in the front of house was like, hey Malia, somebody's here for you. And I was like, okay, it's not my close friends because they're out of town. I was like, who is it? And it was my dad. And it was literally the sweetest thing that he showed up and visited me. But I literally, like, it made me so sad because I was literally just thinking about that, and then my dad showed up, and it was just so sweet, and it just brought me back to everything. So yeah, that was another trigger. So another really hard thing for me is that because this last year was full of so many intense emotions, whether they were good, bad, negative, I went through a lot, and a lot of it I did alone. Like, of course I had this amazing support group, but I lived alone, so 90% of the time I was alone in my house trying to navigate all of this. And I got really used to being alone and like just doing everything by myself and just figuring this stuff out. And now that I have started to like branch out, try to get to know more people and make more friends and develop relationships, it became very intimidating. Even the idea of having such like a positive and good emotion was scary for me. And that was really weird. I wasn't expecting that, but I found myself like very hesitant to develop these relationships with people because I was just so on guard, and my heart was like, nah. It's like, we can't handle any emotion right now. And that came with even the happy ones, because they were still emotions that I had to feel, and it was a lot to even try to comprehend feeling. And so like I said, I found myself like avoiding them. And so I've met some really good friends recently, and I had to open up to them. I was like, it's hard for me to develop these relationships. And so once I like kind of stepped out of that and I felt safe in creating these relationships, it was pretty easy to get back into it. But there were a lot of fears and anxieties around that, which I was not expecting, because I'm a pretty sociable person. Like, I love to be friends with anyone. Like, if you're a human being and you're a good person, I will be your friend. And yeah, so that was definitely really weird for me, because it was just new. So, and like being alone, now that I've like stepped out and been more social, it's hard to be alone for long periods of times again, but I was so comfortable with being alone. And I had my own rhythm and things, but I don't think it was very healthy, because we're not meant to be alone. And that reminds me, like, literally a few days ago, I don't know if you guys saw my reel that I posted about, like, being brought back to the first few days after my mom had died. It's like I was just hit with intense grief. I don't know if it's just because I've been so busy and haven't really thought much about it recently, but it was about a week ago. I was just hit with intense grief. Like, physically, I felt the exact same way, physically and emotionally. I felt the exact same way I did a few days after my mom had died. It was just like my body was wiped, and I was so sad. I spent most of the day crying, which I hadn't done in a long time. And it was so weird. Like, I was drained, and like it was just like my body was like, whoa, you have to feel this, and you have to feel it right now. I was lucky I was able to get work off. But it was intense. I was shocked that it was so intense. But I made it through. I allowed myself to cry and just feel it all day. Like, I didn't try to push it away because I wanted to feel it. If you have lost somebody close to you, you might relate to this, but there is something a little, not satisfying, but something about our grief that, like, if I never feel my grief again, I would be a little sad, because grief shows, I don't want to say it shows, because I don't want my love for my mom to be defined by my grief, but at this moment my grief really shows me how much I care about her. And so the idea of that being gone one day is like, I know it's completely irrational, but I'm like, does that mean I'm over her? Like, she's my best friend, she's my mom. And the idea of living without her for the rest of my life is still unfathomable. I don't know how I'm doing it, but I am. Like, I haven't seen her in almost 8 months. Isn't that wild? Anyways, like I was saying, it's like there's something a little, I'll use the word satisfying. It's not really the word I'm looking for. But feeling grief and knowing that, like, okay, it still does affect me. I will say I miss her. I don't think about her often. Like I said in one of my last videos, I try not to. But something that I tried this recently, the last few months, is talking to her. So it's something that I don't know why, but I never even tried to do, because I think I just knew that it would be way too much. But I wrote her a letter, and I was just talking about, like, the last few months of my life, the people that I'd met, my new job, how my family's doing, and it was really good. But I think the hardest part for me in the letter was writing about the people that I'd met, because if you were a close friend of mine in the past few years, my mom, she was like best friends with all of my friends. Like, they all knew her as much as, not as much as I knew her, but so the idea of developing new relationships and not having them know my mom, or like something that's been really hard, is like, I want to talk about her. I want people to know her and to get her. But there's so much that I just can't ever share with somebody. So I try and I give these little snippets all the time, and I kind of gauge how people receive them. And if they seem like, oh, that's really sweet, then I will give more. And I don't know, it's really sad to me that that will always be how people see her are just these snippets of my memories. I didn't think I'd cry in this. But yeah, I have found that to be really, really hard. I hope this video isn't too jumbled. But yeah, the idea of people only knowing her through my perspective is really tough. I was at my sister's wedding this past weekend, and I saw my uncle, my sweet uncle. He's the brother of my mom, and I was talking to him. I was just telling him about my life, and he literally looked at me and he's like, "You just looked like her." He was like, "Every expression and movement that you just did was her." I didn't cry in the moment, but I'm crying thinking about it now. But he cried, and his wife cried, and I was like, oh, it's just crazy. Because I miss her a lot. I don't think I realize how much I miss her. But yeah, I'm starting to look more and more like her. And weirdly, I know this is weird, but my hands remind me the most of her. Like when she would drive or when she would do things, I remember I would just look at her hands. I just remember looking at her hands and noticing them. And my hands look so much like hers that like when I'm driving, I'll see them and I'm like, this is literally my mom. Like it reminds me of her so much. That's been hard. But yeah, I really think I pushed it all so far that I never notice until I allow myself to talk about it. And when I talk about it, I realize what my brain is going through, and that's why I really appreciate these videos, because they give me a time and a space to be able to speak about her. But yeah, she was my best friend. She still is, and honestly, a lot of you know that I'm a very religious person, and reaching out to God was really hard these past few months. Not because I was mad at him or anything, it's just, like I said, any intense emotion was so intimidating to me. I didn't want to have to deal with it. And so having a relationship with God obviously makes me feel really good and makes me just feel valued and loved and cherished. But I would avoid those situations that would have me feel those intense emotions. So praying was really hard, reading my scriptures and going to church, and it was just hard for me. I would detach a lot. But recently I've been developing that relationship again. I don't think I had to like redevelop it. I know God has been with me and Jesus Christ have been with me this whole time, no matter how distant they may have felt. But I had to really detach and be like, He, my Savior, and my Heavenly Father are not mad at me in any way, shape, or form. So I didn't want to get into the mindset that, oh, I have to rebuild this relationship, or I have to do this, da-da-da-da. No, I just had to reach back out. They've been here the whole time. My heart is still fully devoted to them. Like, no question about that, and they know that. And so I didn't allow myself to get in kind of like this rut of like, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible person. Because what I was going through was so much for me mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that my brain was just like, nah, we have to take a break. And I found that worship music, or like I call it Jesus music, has resonated with me so much. Like it is the way that I worship. Like it was a way for me to be able to feel those emotions and just like pray to God, because I would just sing the words so intently and so passionately that like I knew that they heard that, and that was plenty. Like they didn't need any more from me at that moment than to be able to just sing a Jesus song. Like He knows me, and He knows me so well. Yeah. Anyways, this is kind of just like my ramble of an update of the last 8 months of my life. It's been hard, definitely. It's been very hard. There's been a lot of challenges and a lot of things where I just have to figure it out, but here we are. I do feel like I'm getting back to my normal, happy self, And hey, it might last for a long time and it might not. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to be better, because I know that this is not something that's just going to make me, that I'm just going to get over. There's going to be lots of moments, and we're going into the holidays, and this is the time last year that she started to get really bad. So I know there's going to be a lot of memories and a lot of triggers. I remember last November she was put on hospice. So I just know a lot of stuff is going to be brought up in these holiday months, and it still blows my mind that the last time I saw her was Christmas. But it'll be tough. Anyways, I got this, and I have appreciated so much everybody who has reached out to me, whether it's through Instagram or through my comments on YouTube, sharing their experiences. It's so weird how unifying grief is and how it just brings us together, and in kind of a messed up way, it's nice to know we aren't alone. I don't think it's a messed up way, but it's nice to know that we are in this alone. And although we have our Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, we also have people here on earth that they get it and they understand, and that's why I want to build this community, so that people can see kind of the process of grief, at least my grief, and see that we can do it. Like, we're making it through. All of my videos aren't just focused on my grief journey, but it shows my life since learning how to navigate it without my mom and all of the things that I've experienced. So yeah, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to just follow my journey, and we got this. All of you who are going through this and who are grieving, like, I wish I could give you a big hug, because I get it. I get it on a level that most won't. But we got this, and life will get better. And please don't compare your journey to mine. Yeah, we got this. We got this. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, I also got my community tab, so I can do polls and kind of keep in touch with you guys more and update you, because it was so frustrating these last few months not being able to be like, hey, this is what's going on. But we made it to 500 subscribers, so we have the community, so keep a lookout for those. And yeah, I appreciate you guys so much, like, so much. So I hope you have a great day, and yeah, I will see you all in my next video, which is hopefully not 2 months away. Okay? Okay. Alright, I'll see you.